Welcome to the Living Ageless and Bold podcast. Each episode, I bring you amazing women who inspire, educate, and share their experiences and journeys along the way. So grab a glass of wine or a cup of coffee, find a cozy spot, and let's relax and have some fun hearing what can be accomplished after 55. Hi, everybody. Oh, we are in for a treat today. My guest today is Kim Daves. She's the Executive Vice President of Social Impact, Growth Initiatives, and Legislative Affairs at the NHL. She's a trailblazing leader with a rich history in corporate responsibility and social equity. And I'm going to have to read this because she's such a rock star. I want you all to hear all these amazing things. Kim has been recognized by hockey's top 100 or as one of hockey's top 100 most influential leaders in the sport, Adweek's 30 most powerful women in sports, Sports Business Journal's Game Changers, and Savoy Magazine's most influential women in corporate America. And this is so cool. She was profiled with First Lady Michelle Obama in Essence Magazine's 28 most influential Black women in America. And she is here with us today. Welcome, Kim. I'm so excited to have you.
Oh, thank you, Christina. I'm so delighted to be here.
Yeah, so amazing what you're doing. And my listeners know I'm a hockey mom. Hockey's been my life. I wasn't even a hockey fan until my son started playing. But I think back to be a woman in this position. What did 13-year-old Kim Daves want to be when she grew up?
Oh, my goodness. Well, I can tell you it wasn't an executive in the NHL. I don't even think I knew that existed. But I was always very interested in being a game changer. And that really came from lessons learned from my grandmother, Dr. Rose Butler Brown, who was the first Black woman to graduate from Harvard's PhD program in 1939. And I just always knew that I wanted to do something that would be impactful.
Wow. I got goosebumps. And to think of that was your role model. Wow.
Yeah. It was pretty amazing.
So when you're a little girl and that's your grandmother, and I was very influenced by my grandmother. I've talked about this before, but my grandmother was Jewish in Berlin during World War II. And she married my grandfather, who was not Jewish, and all his siblings were Nazis. So what I learned from my grandmother through her stories and through that is just, so I can only imagine what your grandmother taught you and life lessons and inspiration.
Indeed. She had a tough experience, as you can imagine, being one of only two women in the PhD program in 1939 at Harvard, and the only Black person or person of color, for that matter, in the program. And no one would study with her. And so she ended up being top of her class by herself. But what I observed about her was that she wasn't ever bitter about that. She turned that energy into very positive impact in community. She was a professor at University of Rhode Island. There is a dormitory in her name at the university, and she taught me resilience and fortitude and grit, but more importantly, compassion.
Yeah. Wow. So when did you start on this path of where you are today? Was it high school? Was it college after you graduated?
Well, I had the good fortune of having these amazing bookends. I talk about my grandmother, but my maternal grandfather was a community activist in Chicago, and I followed him around. And so I very early on understood the importance of community as a stakeholder. And I went to an all-women's college, undergraduate, Spelman College, which was also an amazing experience and a legacy. My grandfather's mother's sister was in the first graduating class at Spelman. And so there's just been an amazing legacy of powerful women leaders in my life that influenced me from the very beginning. And so I feel like I had the confidence from very early on to make a choice to change the world. And that's what I've tried to do over these 65 years.
Wow. So you spent quite a long career at JPMorgan Chase, and you made a lot of impact there. So let's talk about when you got there. And I have a dear friend who's in finance in New York. She's 57, 58, getting ready to retire. And the impact that she came for women in finance, that's what she wanted to do. And she tells some stories. I mean, it is not easy, or was not easy, being a woman in finance, and being a woman of color in finance, I'm sure, was an added stress, and you had to fight double hard to get what you deserved.
No question about it. During the period that I was in banking, and specifically at JP Morgan, it was a time of merging and acquiring across financial services. And so, the early 90s through the early 2000s, I think I had 15 different jobs, went through 9 mergers. And that, again, taught me to be comfortable, to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. One of the greatest, I think, life lessons anyone can get, particularly now operating in the kind of ambiguity that is required in business. But what was really fantastic about those years was that women across firms on Wall Street band together. So it was not just women at JP Morgan, but it was Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley. And everyone was working together to bring more women on Wall Street. And we birthed ERGs, employee resource groups, together, and created women of color networks and women's networks. And so that was a time of great collaboration. And many of those women, some 25, 30 years ago, I am still in contact with. Many have retired, but many are still working on Wall Street as sassy seniors and still making an impact.
So when you were there, you started a lot of programs for them, DEI types of things, and giving and corporate responsibilities. Let's talk about, because you are a trailblazer in this space.
Well, even when first of all, let me start by saying, in all my years in corporate America, I've never had the title of head of diversity and inclusion. And I think it's really important for all of us to understand that we all own the idea of making our environments, our communities more diverse and inclusive. And I think that's just part of the requirement of good leaders. And so whether I was in a profit and loss area in the private bank, or running the JP Morgan Chase Foundation, which I did for many, many years, I always felt it was a responsibility for us to bring up the next generation of leaders. And we know that next generation is going to be very much multicultural, female, tech savvy, purpose driven. And that really has been my focus for particularly the past 20 years.
Yeah, it's so true. And I don't know if you follow Simon Sinek. I'm a big fan of his, but he gives a talk and basically says,
I love Simon Sinek.
And all corporations should be run by women. Just, we're multitaskers, we're more empathetic. Not that there's anything wrong with men, but we can just do a lot of things at one time, and hug this person who's having a bad day, and be tough with this person who needs some tough love. And it's what we do.
It's so what we do, Christina. And I love Simon Sinek. He is one of my true heroes, and I quote him all the time when I'm doing leadership lessons.
Yeah, he has a lot of great stuff to share. I'll tell you a funny story real quick on a segue. So I had a business mentor for many years by the name of Steve Sinek. And I would go to New York and he was helping me this is before I got into PR and this stuff. And he always said, you should meet my son. You need to talk to my son. And then one day it hit me. We were at dinner. I said, is Simon Sinek your son? Sure enough. And then I met him at a conference when he was speaking. I said, I had dinner with your dad last night. Is that funny? But
That's
also
amazing.
A very wise man. Yeah. So you spent 30 years in finance? And then what's the shift? How do you get to the NHL?
Yes. So I spent 22 years at JPMorgan and retired from JPMorgan and pivoted into consulting and worked for a global firm called Teneo. And during my time at Teneo, the NHL was a client of ours, and I led that scope of work. And I had the opportunity to meet Commissioner Bettman. And it was at the point that the NHL was celebrating its centennial, its 100th anniversary. This was 7 years ago. And I made some recommendations to the NHL about the ways in which it should be thinking about the future of the sport, particularly with demographic shifts. And some months later, after I had completed that scope of work, Gary reconnected with me and said, we need someone like you that can look around the corner and help us think about the future. And that's how I ended up joining the NHL. At 58 years old, I pivoted my career into a completely new industry, a new role that I probably never would have gotten if it had been on paper and I had been recruited for it. But it was because of the relationship that I built with Gary that I moved into that role. And he has been an amazing mentor and friend over these past almost 7 years.
Yeah. And that's so many people who listen to the podcast say that, I'm trying to figure out, I'm in my 50s, we're healthy, we're fit, we're smart. Hopefully we have some money socked away after this time. It's like, now we can do things that matter and make a difference. And guests like you really inspire these women that at 58, come on, the NHL, that's like every kid's dream job. And here you are doing that. Wow. And I like what you're doing there. Again, I'm a hockey mom. My son started playing when he was 4. He played travel all the way until he went away to college and decided he didn't want to play anymore. But there is a huge diversity problem in hockey, even in the pro level. I mean, look at who's out on the ice. And I was really excited when I read up about you and what you were doing. And, I thought back. So my son played for 13 years, and I am not exaggerating. In all the years and all the teams, there was one Black boy, one Indian boy, and one Asian. And that was it. In all the years and all the teams, and there's a problem. So I'd love to talk more about what you're doing for sports in general. Like, how do we make it more inclusive? How do we get kids who, might not be able to play and we as, fans of sports, what can we do to help?
Yeah, I think that is so important. First of all, having this kind of authentic conversation about the need for us to be intentional about how we are bringing people into the sport. And typically what you hear about hockey, and you know this to be true, is that the reason that you don't see more, quote, diversity in hockey is because of the expense of hockey. And yes, there is a lot of expense, the equipment, the changing of equipment, kids growing out of equipment, the time of what it costs to be on the ice. However, we have invested over the past 10 years almost $190 million through our industry growth fund to provide accessibility to the sport. So my question as I went around when I first joined was, how are we making the sport more culturally available? And the way I talk about culturally available is not putting up a sign saying, we're here, come to us, but how are we going into communities and building trust so that other communities see hockey and see themselves in the sport of hockey? right? And I think that that is the shift that is underway, that is changing both the perception and the brand of our sport, but also making families feel like they are welcomed into the sport of hockey. And the way I know that that impact is being felt, Christina, is that this year we had the most diverse first round draft picks in the history of the sport in its 108 years. And so the funnel is widening at the base. And so over the next decade, we are going to see more and more kids of color playing at the elite levels because we are seeing more kids at the bottom of the the ecosystem moving through it. So hopefully the experience will be a little different than the one your son had. And in fact, my 4-year-old grandson just started playing hockey.
Huh? Oh, I love it. It truly is the greatest sport. It really is. It became such a huge part of our lives, and all of our friends are our hockey friends. I'm going on a girls' trip with all my hockey moms, and our kids haven't played together in 6 or 7 years. But it's so good with what you're doing. So because I've seen a little bit, and we actually did some stuff where we donated equipment because it is really expensive. And when they get to the higher levels, I mean, you're looking at skates in the thousands of dollars, and they're breaking sticks like this. It's like,
Right. That's right.
So what kinds of things is the NHL doing? Like, are the teams going into the community, the players going into the community, doing stick and shoots and learn to skate? And how are they getting it to be more diverse?
Yeah, so it's all of that. So we, in both the U.S. and Canada, we have these programs called Learn to Play and Learn to Skate programs that provide at no cost and provide full equipment that the kids can keep, 8-week introduction to the sport, both for those that are learning to skate just to get them on the ice, and those that have learned to skate and now are playing the sport to get them involved, and then in the ecosystem so that then they can begin to navigate the whole youth hockey participation track, right? So another important part of that is what happens after they go through a learn to play program. How do they connect with an affiliate in their local community? How do they know what the best summer programs are? How do they pay for those programs if they can't afford to? All of youth sports has become so privatized that it's not just hockey that's expensive, but every sport is expensive because families have to pay $5,000, $7,000, $10,000 for summer camps, particularly as they move up into the more elite ranks. So getting more player involvement, early entrance into skating and the programs, getting the players on the ice talking about the importance of inclusion, creating programs that talk about safety and making our sport more welcoming, doing things in the communities with influencers and collaborators and creators so that, an Asian kid can see themselves in those that are not only on the ice, but off the ice talking about hockey. So it's brand building, it's social impact, it's youth participation. It's making sure that we are responding to the changing needs of families, having programs like street hockey for people that can't commit or don't have access to ice so that they can get involved in being a fan of our sport through street hockey. So it's pulling all of those levers as part of the ways in which we are making our sport more culturally available.
And I love when you said that the kids need to see themselves there. I have a woman that I worked with, and her entire platform is having books available to all children where they see themselves in the books. So no matter what your ethnicity is, you can open a book and you'll see yourself there. And I love that because then you connect and then you relate, and then you're going to want to get involved in hockey. If you see yourself out there as a 15 or 16-year-old,
Right.
as an 8-year-old, I want to be him. or her.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Billie Jean says, "You, if you see it, you believe you can be it." And their representation counts. It matters, and role models matter. So both having role models on the ice, having executives working in the sport. We have more women than ever in senior ranks in the 32 clubs and at the NHL headquarters. We've been very intentional about hiring more women. Now 37% of our workforce are women. 40% of our fan base are women. 4 in every 10 fans are women. So, we have to do a better job of promoting ourselves. You know this to be true. Hockey is such a humble sport. People in hockey are so humble. They're quiet. They just do it. And we have to talk more about what is happening and the change effort, the movement that is afoot across the hockey ecosystem, because it's exciting and it's having real impact.
It is, and you brought up women. My niece is a hockey player at University of Denver. Yay! She's amazing. And the NHL has their first female assistant coach, which I was so excited to see that.
Yeah, not even an assistant coach, a lead coach out of Seattle this year.
Yeah.
So, we are, again, everything happens when you are intentional, right? And so 4 years ago, we started this female coaching program with the NHL Coaches Association and a BIPOC coaching program. And since that time, we have seen more people of color and women move up the ranks into professional coaching because we were intentional about making those opportunities available. And so it is very exciting to see the change. It really keeps me encouraged about the future, because our sport is being very, very welcoming and open to new audiences, and that what I refer to as that fan in waiting, right? That fan that we don't even know could fall in love with our sport if they have more exposure to the sport.
Has there been any pushback? And I haven't read anything, and I'm not stirring a pot. I'm just curious, having a woman now as a coach, and our women, look at our women's Olympic team. I mean, amazing. There are amazing women in hockey, but it has predominantly been a male sport. I mean, that's all we've known hockey to be. Is there any pushback, or has not the NHL, but have the teams and the players really embraced her?
I mean, they have embraced her like crazy. And here's the thing that everyone should know about the women that are emerging in the sport. These are women that have been playing significant roles for the past 20, 25 years. They've just been hidden figures, right? And so most of the top skating coaches are women. Women are amazing skaters. That's why we have dominated in figure skating. And so those same skating skills apply in hockey. And so some of the more outstanding skating coaches are female. And the guys clamor to get these coaches to work with them because they are so fantastic. So we didn't have to go outside of the hockey ecosystem to find these amazing women. They were inside the ecosystem. It was just elevating them and amplifying them and being intentional about making sure that they were in these informal networks and that they were getting mentored so that their talents could be more exposed.
And I love that you say that. I'm going to give a shout out to my friend Wendy Marco, who is a skating coach, and all the Washington Capitals skate with her. She is amazing. And my son skated with her when he was little. And then we watched her career just explode. And you're right. They go to her. I mean, she's the it woman.
Yeah.
It's skating coach, not even woman. It's skating. Like, she's the person that is the best at what she does.
Yes. Yes. So no, there wasn't any pushback. Just nothing but respect. And again, a lot of the guys said I hadn't really thought about making sure that I was intentional about bringing this individual along. I didn't think about it. So I think, again, intentionality is the key word here. to affect the kind of change that we need to continue to affect in the sport, we have to be intentional.
When do we see a female head coach in the NHL?
Oh, it's a matter of time. It's around the corner. I mean, it is in sight. It is not in the dark tunnel. It is literally the next couple of seasons. Expect to see it.
That's exciting. That's really exciting. What is the most?
It is super exciting.
What's the most exciting thing that you have seen in your 7 years at the NHL?
I would say it's been the receptivity of the owners of the 32 clubs to the kind of change that we are undertaking. That they, people always ask me, did you have resistance? Did they react to a Black woman coming into a sport at such a senior level? And I would say I have had nothing but support and respect for the expertise that I bring, which is very different than, having hockey IQ. I think every industry and every business needs to think outside of itself and look at best practices from other industries. And I think I've been able to bring that to the NHL and to the sporting industry, generally speaking. And we're seeing more receptivity to people coming from other industries into sports. I think that was the last frontier. Probably the sports and entertainment space is the last frontier of an industry sort of being very insular. And now we're seeing it open up more. And I think that's very positive. And at the end of the day, the owners want impact. They want to continue to grow the sport, grow the fan base. And those are the things that we're all focused on.
Do you see other sports following your lead?
I do. And we often laugh about who would have thought that other sports would be thinking about what the NHL is doing. But for sure, in the social impact and the multicultural marketing and the female space, we are seeing other sports look at what we're doing. Hockey fights cancer as an example. Hockey was the first ever major sports league to take on cancer as a major cause marketing effort. That was 26 years ago. $34 million have been raised. And last year we partnered with the Jimmy Valvano, the V Foundation, and we are taking that program to new heights. And so those kinds of innovations are the things that I think others are watching, both inside the sports and entertainment industry, but even outside as well.
I love it. You are a trailblazer, groundbreaker. I have to ask you, can you skate?
I can skate. I grew up in Chicago,
Okay.
so I grew up in the ice in the neighborhood. I did not play hockey, but I skated every single Sunday. We went to Marina City where there was a outdoor and indoor ice skating rink, and I grew up skating in public parks as well. So yes, I can skate.
I was going to say that might be the big holdback of your position, is that if you're an executive vice president and you can't skate.
Well, I don't know that all the senior executive vice presidents on the team can skate. I'm probably one of a minority of them, but there would be an assumption because the majority are men that they can all skate. I don't know that that's true.
That might be a funny team building event is get your whole corporate and get them out on the ice and see who's got it.
I think you're right. That might be a good challenge.
Yeah. So I wrap up every episode with the same two questions. What is the greatest thing you've accomplished since you've turned 50?
Oh, goodness. Staying married for 40 years to the same man.
Congratulations. Wow.
We just celebrated our 40th anniversary, so that has been exciting. He's been an amazing partner and my best friend.
He must think it's pretty cool to have his wife be the EVP of the NHL. That's pretty awesome.
He was the first person that said, when I said, "What do you think about this?" He said, "Well, what can you lose? I mean, you have moved from financial services to consulting, and goes, "You are a change agent. That is what you do, and there is a huge opportunity. Go do what you do." And that was almost 7 years ago. So yeah, he's a pretty cool dude. And I would say the second thing is, pivoting my career at 58 years old into a completely new environment. It takes some courage, and I did it. And my message to all your listeners is that we have a lot of energy to deliver and to give, and we are self-actualized typically after 50. And so don't let anybody tell you you can't do it. We can do it.
We can do anything we want. That's what I love about being over 50.
Right. That's right.
And then where do you see yourself in 10 years?
Hopefully somewhere relaxing on the beach. But 10 years, I always say I will never retire. I will pivot and change, but I will never retire. And in 10 years, I hope that I'm still having some impact. I hope that I'm still giving some gems to young people and helping the next generation be better than our generation.
There's not a doubt in my mind that you're going to continue doing that. So Kim, thank you so much for joining me today. It was really great to have you.
Oh, it was a pleasure. I enjoyed our conversation.
Thanks. So if anybody has young kids, interested in hockey or sports and you're not sure about things, share this episode with them. Get people excited about everybody from anywhere to be able to play sports and feel comfortable and see themselves out there, whether it's on the ice or a field or a ballpark. So again, thank you, Kim. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Thank you for listening or for watching this episode of Living Ageless and Bold. If you haven't already, please make sure you hit subscribe. And if you like the episode, I hope that you will give us a great review. You can also head over to livingagelessandbold.com and sign up for information, inspiration, and exclusive opportunities for us, women over 55. Thanks for listening. And remember, no matter what you do, keep living ageless and bold.